Farmers are subsidised for doing good, not simply for the land they rent or own. That is the vision we heard earlier in the programme, which underlies the government's plans for a new system of subsidies, which will replace the common agriculture policy. On the surface, it sounds very similar to ideas put forward by the farmer and writer James Rebanks, whose latest book, English Pastoral, argues that modern farming practices have done grave damage to the land and to the environment. James joins us on the line this morning. Morning to you.
Morning, Nick. How are you doing? You all right?
Not bad. Now, he seems to be saying the same sort of things that you were saying in your book, but you've read this latest government announcement. Do you think the detail is there to back it up?
Short answer, no. To be fair, they're acknowledging that. They said they're going to work that in the trials that follow. Yeah, I mean, my response is the sort of headlines sound good, don't they? Like sort of who sensibly doesn't want more nature in the English countryside? Who doesn't want more sustainable farming? I think the vast majority of us like those headlines. I think the sort of small print of it worries me, and the future vision, if I'm really honest, Nick, that's where the terrifying stuff is.
Terrifying stuff, why? Because you think farmers will still be under huge pressure to produce more and more for less and less?
Yeah, so behind those sort of glossy green promises, there's quite a lot of talk, once you get into the document, about making farmers and farmland more productive, which is the thinking that got us into the mess in the first place. I'm not disputing we need to be very productive, but we need to be very careful about that. And there's a big sort of conservative fantasy in this about getting any kind of public money out of farming in 7 years' time. So if you look past the sort of short-term green promises and the green hope, I'm sort of worried that they're going to throw us off a cliff in 7 years' time. So Mr. Eustace talks about his grandfather and having the best of his grandfather's farming and the best of modern science. Yeah, that's pretty much what I think we should do as well. But his grandfather didn't farm in a system where he was producing food about a quarter of the price. The food prices now are about a quarter of what they were when his grandfather was alive. And his grandfather didn't have a government that was asking him to compete with a free trade deal with America, which would drive down the prices further and make his grandfather compete with the worst farming on earth. So I think the long-term vision is dodgy. If I'm really honest, it's about doing this thing which Michael Gove started talking about, which was that we can somehow have the productivity of North America, the North American prairies, which are the least sustainable, worst farming on earth, and we can have all this fantastic nature that we've lost over the last 100 years. So the long-term vision, I think, is messy and confused. But yeah, there are some good things in there, and there's reasons to be cautiously optimistic that in the next stage we can fight for it to be thrashed out and worked out to be something better.
Briefly, James, if you would, bring it down to the level of the field or the shed. Give us an example of where you think this tension exists for farmers in terms of what they're meant to do and what in the end they feel driven to do.
Yeah, so if you check the fields I'm looking at out of my window, and it's a horrible, grey, cold, wet Lake District morning, do we want my fields to be more productive? So how do I do that? Well, I can plough up an old-fashioned Lake District extensive pasture field, which has 95 to 105 species of flowers and grasses in it, and I can replant it with a modern, improved in inverted commas, species of grass, maybe ryegrass. I can use synthetic fertilizers. I can probably massively increase the bulk of grass that I grow on that field. But is that fundamentally a good thing? What we now know is that it isn't a good thing. And it doesn't matter which bit of my farm you look at or which bit of my valley you look at. When you ask a farmer to be more productive, and we're doing that every day of the week, either through policy or through supermarkets. So you turn the telly on, the supermarkets are all saying, we've made it a little bit cheaper than last week, come and shop with us. So we're constantly asking the farmer to reduce the price. And the way that they do that is scaling up, going to monocultures, specialising into certain things, and using every tool that's available to them. And
James, this is merely confirmed that it is more complicated than uttering the words. I'm sorry to cut you off, but we're going to wind it up there. James Rebanks, author of English Pastoral. Thanks so much.